Greetings, music lovers, vinyl community YouTubers, and everybody else out there who loves music. I thought today I'd tie up a new thing relative to live music. I mentioned last week that I do love a live release. And of course, during this pandemic, it's been one of those unfortunate things we can't see live music, but we can still listen to it, right? So I went through and I pulled 12 releases that I really enjoy. Different venues all over the world, different styles of music. Some stuff you've probably seen before, some stuff you haven't. So that's what it's all about. Try to try new things, turn you on to some new music. And yeah, so let's kick it right off with none other than Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Probably you could call these guys the original supergroup when that term was coined, because these guys all came from, they had a background before. Of course, Graham Nash was in the Hollies, Neil Young and Stephen Stills, both from Buffalo Springfield, and David Crosby from the Byrds. They all brought something interesting to the table. Their songwriting abilities, their musicianship, just, you know, four really interesting guys. Of course, four really big egos. So they were the whole original lineup was short-lived. I'm not going to get into a whole history on Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young today, but again, when you put the four of them in a room together, they came up with magic. This was from the Deja Vu studio album. They were touring on that in 1970 following the 69 appearance at Woodstock that was extremely well received. Of course, inside the gatefold, you've got all the lyrics. This featured the songwriting talents, again, of each of the four respective members. Of course, David Crosby's The Lee Shore, Neil Young, Cowgirl in the Sand, Stephen Stills, Love the One You're With, and of course, Graham Nash's Teach Your Children, one of the most well-known songs from the Deja Vu studio album that I just mentioned. So again, Four-Way Street, I believe this was 1971. It was released, recorded in 1970 on that 6-month tour. Four-Way Street, highly recommended. Over to England now, the great Dire Straits. Here they are. Alchemy, double live album. This was recorded at the Hammersmith Odeon in London, England. This was kind of a sum of all parts for the band at this point. I say that because they had 4 studio albums leading up to this concert tour in 1983. Of course, their self-titled debut, Communique, Love Over Gold, and Making Movies, of course, being the 4th in no particular order there. Yeah, featuring songs from all 4 of those albums. Some of the highlights, of course, Once Upon a Time in the West, Telegraph Road from the Love Over Gold album, clocking in at at a mere 14 minutes. But with Mark Knopfler, he keeps it interesting. Again, he would just have these long build-ups, especially on a track like Telegraph Road, where it reaches this peak and the audience would acknowledge it, just like a piece of classical music. There you can see on the inner sleeve here, the venue, the Hammersmith Odeon, of course. There's Mark Knopfler. It's a bit of a cartoon caricature. It's kind of an interesting portrayal of the band on the inside here. But yeah, at this point, this was kind of the peak for me. Brothers in Arms was released the following year. This was released in '84, following the '83 tour that that these performances were culled from. But Brothers in Arms came out, the studio album that they're most well known for, I would say. I mean, hey, I'm probably going to get persecuted for it. It's not my favorite, Brothers in Arms, although it does have its highlights. But this, to me, was the peak for the band as far as their abilities in the studio and their output. Brothers in Arms, a little too commercial for my taste. Following that, again, we're jumping genres today. I'm trying to share some stuff that you probably haven't seen before, so this might be one of them. This is The Exploited. These guys were a pretty well-known punk outfit from the UK. This was recorded in 1981 in Edinburgh, Scotland. As you can see, it's a collector's album, colored vinyl. Not something I ever seek out. Of course, a lot of the newer pressings are doing that. Different colors, patterns on the record. With me, I'm more about content. I do like cover art, but the color of the record itself really doesn't mean a whole lot to me. So I got this used at a store in Kingston, Ontario when I was in high school. A store called the Vinyl Vendor that I used to frequent. He always had a lot of cool stuff in there. This is On Stage, The Exploited. And of course I'll show the record. As you can see, there's the Doc Martin boot. Some of the highlights on this, I mean, Punk's Not Dead, Cop Cars, Crashed Out, Dogs of War. Clock's in around half an hour. It's pretty aggressive. Of course, it is a punk album. Gotta be in the mood for it. I haven't played this in a long time. Today could be the day. The mood strikes me. Again, The Exploited on stage. Interesting side note with that. My daughter likes thrifting. I like it too. We were in a store last summer. Here we are, The Exploited Army Life t-shirt. There you go. Army Life was a track on that live album I just showed. So yeah, I'll be adding this t-shirt to the Mike Kelly Summer 2021 collection, rolling out soon, as summer is coming. So moving on that same kind of genre, if you will. Killing Joke, I wouldn't call a punk band. I'd certainly call them innovative. Labels for a band like this kind of escape me. Industrial, punk, I don't know what you want to call them. I have a lot of their stuff in my collection. This is a 10-inch album. You just don't see that format much. This is the only one I have in my collection. I've seen one of the other YouTubers I follow show a lot of blues records, and they from the 50s, 40s on the 10-inch format. I've never seen it before, and I've seen it since, actually. Again, this was recorded at a venue called Larry's Hideaway in Toronto. That was recorded, located in the basement of a hotel on Carlton Street, just around the corner from the Eaton Centre for any of my friends in Toronto, to get the geography straight. It's no longer there. I looked it up on Wikipedia. The building was demolished sometime in the early 90s to make way for probably a condo or God knows what, being right downtown Toronto. This was in '82, 2 years after their self-titled debut. Songs included from the debut. War Dance, of course, is on here. Psych, just really great. Again, it's only 6 songs. Clock's in at around, again, 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes. But again, Killing Joke, live at Larry's Hideaway, Toronto, 1982. Shifting gears, certainly a departure for the Motown label, where these guys from Detroit, 5-piece outfit called Rare Earth. This was recorded predominantly in Ithaca, New York, at Cornell University, outdoors. I believe it was some sort of an amphitheater there. At certain points on the record, you can hear the lead singer asking people to move back because there's cables down on the ground and they're getting wet from the rain, warning people not to get electrocuted. So this, again, I've never seen this kind of thing. It's a backpack, as you can see, like an army backpack. So a lot of highlights here. I just want to celebrate. Of course, is excellent. 23-minute version of the Temptations' Get Ready. Yeah, there it is. You can see. It's right here, and you can see the label. Yeah, there it is. Get Ready. One song on that side, just due to the length, just shy of 24 minutes. Again, Rare Earth in concert. Cornell U, Ithaca, New York. Seek this out. Really fun album. It's one of those albums I only listen to certain times a year. I associate certain albums with, it's a winter album, it's a summer album. This is a summer cottage, let her rip, party. A lot of fun. I mean, this is a jam album before the term jam band was coined, but they really keep it interesting. It's funky, it's bluesy. There's really something for everybody here. Again, Rare Earth in concert. Ithaca, New York, 1971. Back to Neil Young. I mentioned him, of course, previously with the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young 4-Way Street live recording. This album is from the Russ Never Sleeps tour in 1978, recorded at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, California. This is in 1978. It's an excellent retrospective of Neil's work up until this point. Kind of covers his folkier side and his more rock and roll side. Something for everybody here. There, of note on his guitar strap, there's the late great Jimi Hendrix right there. Of course, some of the highlights: Sugar Mountain, or the folkier side of Neil, and then going a little heavier stuff like Cortez the Killer, Powderfingers on here. I mean, this is really great. Of course, there's the band, the crowd down in front again at the Cow Palace, San Francisco, California, 1978. The great Neil Young. Moving on. I don't have this on vinyl. Only have a CD copy, but I'm going to show it anyway because it's just such an important live record. Ironically, this week, this album is 50 years old. Recorded in 1971, of course, at Bill Graham's Fillmore East in New York City. This featured the original lineup of the Allman Brothers band. Of course, there's Dickie Betts, guitar player, the late great Duane Allman, his brother, the late great Greg Allman. Of course, down in front, J-Mo Johansson, one of the drummers, Barry Oakley, the bass player, and Barry, what is it? Barry, oh, that's Butch Trucks. What am I saying? Barry Oakley is over here. Yeah, the great Butch Trucks on drums. So again, this highlights, of course, Statesboro Blues, in memory of Elizabeth Reed, Done Somebody Wrong, Hotlanta. Of course, the great Mountain Jam clocking in at around just shy of 34 minutes. This is really essential. Comes with a nice booklet. You know, all this stuff in here you get with these kind of box sets. Here's the booklet. Of course, it's just the cover of the album. Some great liner notes and photographs. Used to do this when they reissue stuff on CD in the 90s. Include a lot of that extra stuff. Of course, of note, I saw these guys 3 times. Here's a ticket stub I found when I was going through this stuff last night. This is from a show I went to in 2006, actually, with my wife out at the Tweeter Center in Mansfield, Massachusetts. The venue was previously called Great Woods. And here's a DVD, actually, from 91. It's a different lineup at this point, with Warren Haynes was in the band. Teal Burbridge was playing bass. Derek Trucks hadn't joined at this point, but he had by 06 on guitar with Warren playing with, and of course Dickie Betts was still in the band up until that point. So again, this is a live DVD. Just throwing this out there. This is from Great Woods, 1990. What is this? 91. Other shows. Back to the Allmans again. Here's 2. They did these 2 back to back. So first set recorded at the Orpheum Theater right here in Boston, Massachusetts. Of course, second set here, they were right back to the Fillmore. Also, these are both from 1992 with their longtime producer Tom Dowd remastered these in the studio. Both feature some of their classics as well as some of their later material like End of the Line, Southbound, Nobody Knows, Sailing Across the Devil's Sea, and of course Back Where It All Begins. That was a title track from a studio album they did in the 90s as well. And of course, one more from the brothers here. This is Peekin' at the Beacon. This is from a series of shows they did between New Year's Eve and Christmas in the year 2000 at the Beacon Theater in New York City. Here's the track listing right there. Of course, again, there's some later stuff on here like Greg Allman's Every Hungry Woman, Black-Hearted Woman, Leave My Blues at Home. Of course, It's Not My Cross to Bear, one of their classic tracks. Again, Peekin' at the Beacon, released in 2000. All right, the Great Little Feat featuring Lowell George, lead guitar, vocalist. This is called Waiting for Columbus. This was this is a double album, 7 shows recorded over a tour they did in 1977, various venues from London, England, all the way to Washington, D.C. They're listed in the liner notes. Of course, here's the band on stage. I mean, these guys, I don't know how I'd characterize them as far as the genre. Boogie rock, there's hints of country and western, even bluegrass to a certain degree, I guess. Big percussion session, they got horns, there's really something for everybody here, as they say. And of course, beautiful gatefold sleeve here. There's some pictures of the band on the inside. A lot of good highlights here. Join the Band, Fat Man in the Bathtub, Time Loves a Hero, Don't Bogart That Joint, Willin'. Of course, finishes off with the great Feats Don't Fail Me Now. Just a really great, fun album. Love the cover art rather. Just really, really good band. And if you want to capture the essence of Little Feat, skip the studio stuff and get this. This is really representative of what these guys could do on stage. All right, shifting gears back to the 80s. One from my youth, my high school days. Of course, the great U2. They were great at the time. Anyway, this is a live set recorded in 1983 at the Red Rocks Amphitheater, located just outside of Denver, Colorado. I believe there's 8 tracks on this. kicks things off with Gloria, Party Girls on here. 40 is what they used to close all their shows with back at that point. The audience would kind of participate and sing along with that one. You know, as Bon would say, come along, sing with me, this is 40. And there they are, you can see the band right there. So this was kind of a sum of their first 3 studio albums at that point. October, War, of course, and the Boy album. So yeah, some of their early stuff. I saw them later on. I saw them in 1992, the Actung Baby Tour. I believe that was out in Vancouver, British Columbia, BC place. That was an interesting show in that the openers were Public Enemy. that was wild, and the Sugar Cubes featuring Bjork at the time. She hadn't gone solo yet, so they were the openers before that kicked off the Actung Baby show. And then I saw them again, U2 that is, in 2001. It was not long after 9/11 had happened. It was about 5 weeks after that at the Forum in Montreal, and that was for the, I believe that album's called What You Can't Leave Behind. I may be getting that wrong because I wasn't collecting U2 music at that point. I kind of checked out. I went to that concert with some friends. There was another ticket available, but it was a surprisingly pretty good show. They had a track on that album, that studio album from that tour called New York, and given that 9/11 had just happened, it was there was a lot of audience participation, and it was kind of sad because, again, 5 weeks just after 9/11 and hearing the song New York, it was very emotional. But that was a really good, actually a surprise concert for me. I really enjoyed it. But it's doubtful I'll see U2 again. I've kind of had it with them at this point. Not interested in the last kind of 20 years of their output. It's just not very good, in my opinion. Moving on to some jazz. Again, I'm trying to feature stuff that you just haven't heard before, and I'm betting this is one of them. Keith Jarrett, he was an American jazz pianist, still with us. He came up in the mid 60s when he was about 15 years old. He actually attended the Berklee School of Music here in Boston. It's a performance arts post-secondary institution, second only to Juilliard as far as hard to get into for musicians. Just a really talented, bit of a prodigy on the piano. An improvisational style, not traditional jazz by any stretch of the imagination, and fusion, again, improv fusion. He played with Art Blakey. He left Berklee and went to New York City in the late 60s. He was still a teenager at that point, playing with Art Blakey, the drummer, and his band, the Jazz Messengers, on 1 or 2 albums, I think it was. And then he played with none other than the great Miles Davis. There's a Live Evil album, I believe it's 1971. I have a CD copy in my collection of that. And he played with Miles on various dates in 1970 and 1971. This album, the Cologne Concerts, recorded in Cologne, Germany, summer of 1975, is basically, it's 4 parts, 1 part per side. It's a double album. There's Keith on the front. It almost sounds like he's making it up as he goes along, which he may have been. I don't know the whole story behind it. Very minimalist artwork there. You can see there's Keith right there. But this plays like a piece of classical music with hints of jazz, if I was to give it a really accurate description. It's just outstanding. My only complaint I found this on record just a month ago at a store here in Boston called In Your Ear Records. I frequent down on Com Ave. If you ever find yourself in the Boston area and want to go, contact me. Hell, I'll take you. It's a great store. I find a lot of good stuff there. I had a CD copy of this. Unfortunately, it's scratched. So I was glad to find this on record. Again, the great Keith Jarrett, 1975, the Cologne Concerts. It is on YouTube. If you want to give it a listen, again, I highly recommend it. So speaking of going back to my youth, this is probably one of the first records I ever got. Grade 5 or grade 6. I was a big Kiss guy. I was in the Kiss Army, all of that stuff. And my parents would give me a record at Christmas. I'd always ask at the time. I was young. Of course, my allowance was minimal at that point. I wasn't really buying a lot of records. This is a double album, and again, I got this when I was probably grade 5 or grade 6. It's from the Dress to Kill tour. As you can see, there's the album Dress to Kill right down there. There's the guys. Came with a really nice book, which I still have. Here it is, the book. It's Rock and Roll with Kiss. Yeah, it's a great booklet. Tells the history of Kiss up to that point. This was recorded at Cobo Hall in Detroit, Michigan. Of course, beautiful gatefold sleeve. I can't believe the shape it's in. I've played this a lot, but again, my dad always taught me to take care of my records at a young age, so that would probably explain why it's in such good condition. On that note, funny side note, that we had one record store in the town I grew up in. It was a small town in eastern Ontario, and record store was called Sam the Record Man. And my dad was predominantly into orchestra music, jazz, Dixieland music. So I could just imagine him going into Sam the Record Man. Anybody that remembers my dad, friends watching this video will get a charge out of that, knowing his sense of humor. I could just imagine the conversation he had that day with the store clerk at Sam the Record Man buying this Kiss album in the mid-70s. It must have been hilarious. But it wasn't long after that I got my first pair of headphones because, again, I don't think my parents were big Kiss fans, but just an interesting story there for you. And finally, rounding things out, straight out of Germany, none other than the Scorpions, Worldwide Live. Yes, this was from the Love at First Sting tour. That was a studio album they did in '84. This was recorded that year and released the following year in '85 on this double album. Of course, you can see one of the venues there. This was recorded at a few venues: Los Angeles, California, San Diego, Cologne, Germany, and Paris, France. Great liner notes with this. It actually tells you down the side here all the different venues for each track. There they are. There's the great Klaus Meine up front with Rudolf Schenker and Matthias Jobs, the double guitar attack. There's Klaus up top. Wow, just great frontman. I saw them later on in 1991. Just stellar. There was a Tease Me, Please Me tour. I saw that in Ottawa at the Civic Center. I can't remember who opened. But these guys, they love to play, and it shows. They're still touring. I know they had a residency in Vegas not long before the COVID thing hit the fan. They were out there playing a 6-month or a year residency in Vegas. Yeah, just really amazing, fun band. Highlights on this, of course, Coming Home, Blackout, Bad Boys Running Wild, Can't Live Without You. Of course, The Zoo, one of my favorite tracks. Just really, really good. Can't recommend this enough. Worldwide Live. Funny side note with Klaus Meine, the lead singer, real personality, this guy. I was going to a wedding in Detroit. This was sometime in the mid-90s. I was driving in around a Friday afternoon, and I tuned into the great WRIF at the time, rock and roll station in Detroit, and a station ID comes on with Klaus Meine. Goes something like this. Hello, Detroit. I'm Klaus Meine from the Scorpions. We're gonna sting ya. Always remember that. Very comical. So just a couple other things. That was my 12 albums, but I do have a couple of DVDs I'd like to show today. I'm a big Grateful Dead fan, a lot of you know. My wife got this for Christmas for me. It's called the All the Years Combined DVD Collection. It's 10 DVDs in here. I mean, it's comprehensive. It's not doing it justice. Right from the early 70s right through to the bitter end in 1985. There's really something for any Dead fan on here, all the different periods. Again, there's the library right there. It comes with a really nice book. Here's the book. So yeah, All the Years Combined, Grateful Dead. So again, just because we can't hear music, we can still see it actually. Not live, but DVDs, The Miracle of YouTube, all that's there. Here's a couple from the box set. I recommend this one highly. This is from 1989, that summer tour. This was in July of that year at the Alpine Valley Music Theater in East Troy, Wisconsin. The full concert is on YouTube. Someone's uploaded it on there, so if you just Google Alpine Valley 1989 Grateful Dead, that'll come up for you. Really, really super amazing. Of course, 2 sets as usual, but all the highlights are here. I'm not going to rhyme them all off. You know what they are. And of course here, this is the closing of the Winterland Music Theater in San Francisco. That was another Bill Graham venue, as I mentioned earlier. Of course, the Allman Brothers band at the Fillmore East, that was a Bill Graham venue. He was a San Francisco guy. Winterland was one of his venues, and he just knew what bands to bring in. And the Grateful Dead were regulars at most of at all his venues, not most, at all. And lastly, I mentioned Live Aid last week. Of course, this was another one. My wife's a great gift giver and supports my music hobby. This is a 4 DVD set. Let's get it out here. And it features, of course, everybody that was there. There's a picture of the concert poster, I believe, from the original concert poster. Of course, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Wembley Stadium in London, England. This features, they're all on here. Everybody from Status Quo to Madonna. There's really something for everybody here. Of course, there it is. The Day the Music Changed the World, 1985. Indeed. Great collection there. That's available. You could find that anywhere. Any good record store is going to have this. Or, of course, eBay, Amazon, the miracle of those online shopping. But, yeah, I highly recommend this. Again, really great. And that kind of sums things up for another week. I hope you're enjoying these videos as I am making them. Please leave some comments for me. Any suggestions you might have on future subjects that I might cover. I do, in my collection, have a bit of something for everybody. I know I use that phrase a lot, but I'm into a lot of different stuff. So the sky's the limit. So I hope everybody is enjoying the better weather. It's a sunny day here. I'm looking out the window in the greater Boston area. It's the sun is shining. Spring is literally right around the corner. Went a little over my 20-minute mark today. I'm trying to keep these videos down to that. Keep your interest. But again, this is my second attempt. I hope you've enjoyed it. And have a great week. And I'll see you next Saturday.